Welcome to this brand new episode of Global Scan, a show that gives you a 360-degree view of major global developments. On the show today, we focus on Turkey's offensive in Syria against the Kurdish forces. The unilateral move has invited condemnation from countries across the world. We'll also track the developments in the Iraq civil war, Nobel Prize winners of 2019, all that and more. First, the headlines. Tens of thousands of people flee and at least dozens killed as Turkey launches its long-awaited offensive in northeast Syria, defying an international outcry over threat to Kurdish forces. Iraq on the boil. Many Iraqis killed in clashes between protesters and security forces during street demonstrations. Anti-government protesters demand jobs, improved services and an end to corruption. Mega parkouts over wildfire in California. Food spoils, business shut. Residents surprised. Governor says broad power shutdown unacceptable. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed wins the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. Ahmed wins award for outstanding contribution to peace for his work in bringing to an end more than 20 years of conflict with neighboring Eritrea. Protests on climate change intensify. Extinction Rebellion Group launch massive protest in major cities of the world, demand immediate action from the government to tackle climate change. And finally, a breather for Iranian women. After 40 years, women soccer fans allowed inside of Iran Stadium to watch the World Cup qualifiers between Iran and Cambodia. Now, first up, our big story. Turkey pounded Kurdish militia in northeast Syria, forcing tens and thousands of people to flee and killing at least dozens of people in cross-border assault on the US ally. International clamor has increased for Turkey to halt the attack, but Turkey has defended its bid to create a safe zone free of Kurdish militia, which could also house Syrian refugees. Meanwhile, a mortar shell exploded on Thursday outside of the headquarters of a district governor's office in Akakel, Turkey. More details in this report.
The Turkish military on Wednesday launched a major cross-border operation in northeastern Syria against a Kurdish-led militia alliance allied to the US. 2 jets took off from Diyarbakir Air Base in southeastern Turkey. The move came after the US troops withdrew from the border area. While announcing the action, the Turkish President Erdogan said the aim is to eliminate terror corridor on Turkey's southern border.
Our mission is obvious. It's clear. We will bring down the terror corridor. Hopefully, we will build a peace corridor. This is our aim for a safe zone.
But soon after this, European countries immediately called on Ankara to halt the operation. Iran's President Hassan Rouhani called on Turkey to show restraint and avoid military action. Russian President Vladimir Putin also told his Turkish counterpart Erdogan to avoid any steps in Syria that could damage its peace process. India also reacted, saying that they are deeply concerned at the unilateral military offensive by Turkey in northeast Syria. Turkey's actions can undermine stability in the region and the fight against terror. Its action also has the potential for causing humanitarian and civilian distress. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has denied the US gave Turkey a green light for its offensive in Syria. This is Turkey's third such incursion since 2016. Turkey has 2 main goals in northeast Syria: to drive the Kurdish YPG militia, which it deems a security threat, away from its border, and to create a space inside Syria where 2 million Syrian refugees currently hosted in Turkey can be settled. The Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces have spent years expanding its control across northern and eastern Syria, held by the US-led coalition against Islamic State. The Kurds and their allies have set up their own governing bodies while always insisting their aim is autonomy, not independence. With Bureau Inputs, Global Scan Desk, DD India.
And let's now understand the context of the Turkish offensive in Syria. Aim of this operation. The operation is aimed at pushing Kurdish forces away from the Turkish border. That's the reason why Turkey has launched an offensive and attack in the northeast of Syria and using the area to resettle around 2 million Syrian refugees. Remember, when the battle against ISIS was going on, millions of refugees moved to Turkey. Now it wants to shift them back. Kurdish forces were the key ally of the US in the fight against ISIS. Now the conflict is between Turkey on the one side and the Kurdish forces on the other. So we see how the dimensions have transformed. Now, who are Kurds? Let us understand. They are an ethnic minority group that mostly occupy the region that borders Turkey, the northeast part that we're talking about. Also Iraq, Iran, Syria and Armenia. In various pockets, the populations of this particular ethnic minority is located. Let's also understand further about the context. The Kurds continue to face discrimination and persecution and have no official homeland or country. They were also suffering at the hands of ISIS. Now they have to take on the might of Turkey as Turkey has launched an offensive on the northeast of Syria. So it's an important aspect how the Kurds are going to deal with the situation at hand. Let's move on to our next big story. It's coming from Iraq. After days of deadly anti-government protests in Baghdad and other Iraqi city brought a few real concessions from the authorities. But when the bloodshed spread to one particular poor restive Baghdad district, they responded differently. After protesters were killed in Sadr city, the military ordered an army withdrawal from the area. Security forces for the first time admitted using excessive force, promising to hold those involved in violence against civilians to account. More money has also been promised to help the poor in the region. And let's now understand what's really happening in Iraq in a little detail. We're talking about Iraq civil unrest. Dozens of Iraqis have died in recent days in the clashes between protesters and the security forces during street demonstrations, a form of civil unrest, a civil war, many people are putting it as. So that has been going for several days now, and there have been many casualties, particularly on the side of the protesters as they take on the security forces. Moving on further on what is happening in the Iraq civil unrest, there were the first major deadly protest for more than a year. There was a restive stage once the IS was eliminated from Iraq, the presence that they had in Iraq. There was an opportunity for the new government, new administration to bring people together, make use of the rich oil resources and work towards the prosperity, but that didn't happen. Widespread corruptions is what the protesters said have led to the major civil unrest in Iraq. About 2 years after the defeat of the Islamic State, the country's nearly 40 million population today live in worsening condition despite the oil wealth. The point that I was making, that it's an oil-rich country, there's a lot of potential, but the manner in which the local administration, the local government has handled the situation, that has led to the situation going out of control, and people have come to the streets demanding for their rights because despite the oil and energy potential, the situation for the common man in Iraq is going from bad to worse. Going further as to why the people in Iraq are protesting, security is better, but direct infrastructure has not been rebuilt. The fight that happened with the Islamic State also after the downfall of Saddam Hussein, there was a need to rebuild Iraq, the infrastructure, the foundation once again, but that expectation, that hope of the people of Iraq has not been fulfilled by the successive administration and the government, and now finally it has pushed people to the brink. The jobs are scarce, people don't have jobs. No jobs also means no money or ability to buy things of daily need. So that frustration, that basic frustration and anger has led the common man of Iraq onto the streets, and protesters are fighting with the security forces in Iraq. The youth blame this squarely on what they see as a corrupt leaders who do not represent them. Again, the idea of a failed administration. Youth is frustrated without jobs, without money, without provisions for themselves and their family, and they blame it on the corruption because, as we mentioned, there is an immense potential that exists in the nation of Iraq, but that has not been utilized in order for the welfare of the common man, of the common folk, common people of Iraq, and therefore this wide-scale protest across the country has been called the civil unrest, the civil war, as we are putting it. Why are the conditions so bad? The UN sanctions to US invasions. There's been foreign occupation. There's been a war with Islamic State. Also sectarian violence and sectarian civil war. Different sections of the society also taking on each other, a sort of a power struggle that has been on continuously, in fact, after the fall of Saddam Hussein. That is still on in the administration, and the government hasn't been able to defeat it. Defeat of the Islamic State insurgents in 2017 means Iraq is now at peace. So technically, the threat of IS is not there, not in Syria, not in Iraq either. However, just the absence of IS does not automatically means prosperity for the people. The building of infrastructure that was to happen has not happened. It has not been done adequately by the local administration and the government, and that is the frustration that is really pushing the Iraqis, the common folk, to the brink on the streets and taking on the protesters. The free-to-trade for first extended period since 1970s. Again, we're talking about the great potential that they're free to trade. The threat of IS is gone. However, because the grassroots infrastructure is in shackles, that is leading to a lot of protest and frustration amongst the masses. They don't have jobs, they don't have money. Oil output is also at the record levels. The money is coming in, but that money is not really going in fulfilling the ambitions, the vision, the aspirations of the people. Infrastructure is decrepit and deteriorating. Again, the point that we're making is it's a prosperous country vis-a-vis the oil and energy potential, but that money that is coming in is not used adequately, effectively by the administration in order to deal with the expectations of the people. War-damaged cities have yet to be rebuilt. Again, the houses, the infrastructure, the job status is in disarray. All of these factors together really leading Iraqis to the streets, taking on the security forces of their own country. Armed groups still wield power on the streets. We talked about sectarian violence. So there are different groups of different sections of society all trying to wield power, trying to take advantage of the situation. And one of the most crucial parts is the culture of corruption, people say, has persisted. In fact, since the era of Saddam Hussein and also after his fall. So corruption really is at the heart of the frustration and anger that is coming out, the people coming to the streets. It has become entrenched under rule of sectarian political parties that emerged after the fall. So none of these parties have really looked at the nation as a whole, trying to take the people together. They've all tried to meet the demands and aspirations of their respective group. What particularly sparked the protest? Inadequacy of state services, whether it's job, whether it's houses, homes for people to live in. The basic infrastructure is missing in Iraq, as we've been reiterating, and that has really led to this boiling of a protest into a civil war-like situation in Iraq. Moving on, a lack of jobs are the principal reasons for the public anger. We again repeating that point because there are a lot of young population in Iraq looking for jobs, looking for money in order to build a prosperous future. They don't have that chance. Series of political moves by the government have also been criticized. Not just the corruption that has been characteristic during and after Saddam Hussein's regime, especially the demotion of a popular wartime military officer. So there are these steps taken by the government and administration that has also led to a lot of anger among the masses, some protesting over the commander's removal. So the popular leader who represent the wish of the people are removed, and those who stay are facing corruption charges. Protests do not appear to be coordinated by a particular political group. As we mentioned, it is really the anger of the masses which is being expressed on the streets, not really led by one cohesive group or a leader. The turnout took security forces by surprise. There have been many casualties as well, and it's unfortunate people of the same country taking on each other, the civilians fighting against the government and the security forces really attacking and keeping them at bay. The government has promised better employment opportunities for the Iraqis. They're trying to salvage the situation, and we're trying to see if the government in the long term are going to be able to meet the protesters' core demand, which is about jobs, homes and basic facilities. Abdul Mahdi, Iraqi Prime Minister, has promised jobs for the graduates. So again, the government has said that it will look at the employment aspect. 50% quota for the local workers has also been promised, but to what extent will it be implemented is for people to see. that is going to be the ways in which we'll have to wait and watch how the government is going to be able to salvage the situation building up in Iraq. Moving on, California Governor Gavin Newsom called a widespread electricity shutdown triggered by a power company to prevent wildfires unacceptable, saying it resulted from years of mismanagement by the utility. Pacific Gas Electric Company, PG&E, has imposed unprecedented shutoffs that left more than 600 homes and workplaces without power. PG&E filed for bankruptcy in January 2019, citing potential civil liabilities in excess of $30 billion from major wildfires linked to its transmission wires and equipment. Some of the state's most devastating wildfires were sparked in recent years by damage to the electrical transmission lines from high winds, with flames then spreading through the tinder-dry vegetation to the populated areas. Extinction Rebellion protests have been launched in major cities across the world. People in London, Paris, Berlin, Sydney took to the streets asking governments to take action on climate change.
Dressed in red and green, these members are climate activists from Extinction Rebellion Group. They are protesting in London as part of a 2-week planned peaceful civil disobedience. It calls for urgent government action to curb carbon emissions in the city. All these activists marched through the crowd gathered at London's Marble Arch and staged performances. Hundreds watch in silence. Camps have been set up in the heart of the capital with activists engaging in activities including group reading, playing music and dancing throughout the day.
Government needs to tell the truth. That's our first demand. The second one is that if we have any chance of changing this, then we have to reach net zero by 2025, and that is for any chance of changing this for the people of this nation. And then the third thing is that in order to make that happen, to operationalise it, then we need to have citizens' assemblies that can actually put these things in place outside of the current political system.
These protests have gained momentum in other countries as well. In Germany's Berlin, climate change protesters blocked main thoroughfares. Hundreds of activists spent the night in near freezing temperatures below Berlin's Victory Column and at central Potsdamer Platz Square, blocking traffic with their presence as well as tents. In Paris, even the rain could not stop climate activists from coming out. Wearing raincoats and huddling together under tarpaulins, hundreds camped under the rain, calling for governmental climate action in the French capital. The protests have also started in other cities like Amsterdam and Sydney. In Australia's Sydney, protesters have found a unique way to put forth their demands. Dressed as bees, these protesters pretend to lay dying in Sydney's Hyde Park. Their way is unique, but the demands are same, to urge the government to take action on climate change. Several protesters have paid the price as well, with hundreds of arrests made worldwide. Bureau Report, DD India.
And now let's talk about the Nobel Prize winners of 2019. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed wins the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. Ahmed wins the award for outstanding contribution to peace for his work in bringing to end more than 20 years of conflict with neighboring Eritrea, each of them furthering the cause of humanity through their own means. Not all the awards have been announced. We will talk about the ones which we know so far. Now let's begin with the Nobel Peace Prize. Ahmed wins the award for outstanding contribution for peace. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has won the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize. We're going to talk about all the areas that we know so far. And Ahmed wins the award for outstanding contribution for the cause of peace, for the cause of humanity. 20 years of conflict in the region is something that Ahmed had vociferously spoken and fought against. And he's brought to an end this conflict with the neighboring country Eritrea. 20 years of conflict between the two. And Ahmed was principally responsible for bringing about this change. So for this particular achievement over a lifetime, this prize was given to him. Let's go to physics. It's been given in two parts. James Peebles, Princeton University, US, for theoretical discoveries in physical cosmology. So one part of the Physics Nobel has been given to James Peebles. He interpreted traces of radiation from infancy, from the Big Bang theory when the universe was born. From then, the radiation that survived, he studied those radiations to understand the nature of the universe. The results showed a universe in which, so far, just 5% of the content is known. So that means that about 95% of the universe is still unknown, but the content that is known, the 5%, it really constitutes stars, plants, trees, and You and I. So in that manner, people's discovery and work has been crucial for humanity. As I mentioned, 95% of the universe is still unknown. It is often referred to as a dark matter or dark energy. Second part of Physics Prize, let's talk about Michel Mayor and Didier Queloz have won it from University of Geneva. Both of them represent for the discovery of exoplanet orbiting a solar type star. So exoplanet is something that lies outside of our solar system. So discovery, finding a planet like that is always a challenge. In 1995, Michel and Didier first discovered planet outside of our solar system. Before that, such a discovery was never made. So in that manner, it becomes crucial, an exoplanet orbiting a solar type star in our home galaxy. So the galaxy, Milky Way, which is considered to be our home galaxy in which our solar system is present, that's where they discovered the exoplanet. Discovery started a sort of revolution in astronomy. So far, the focus was in our own solar system. Now we're looking at the planet stars beyond our solar system as well. And in what manner was the revolution taking place is something that we'll understand in the next slide that is going to come. The Nobel Prize 2019 for Physics. Over 4,000 exoplanets have been found in the Milky Way. So this race to find more exoplanets is something that started with these two scientists, these two astronomers. So that is the way in which the Nobel Committee has identified them as being deserving of the Physics Nobel in 2019. Let's move on to the next winners of the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. Three winners altogether: John B. Goodenough, M. Stanley Whittingham, and Akira Yoshino. So two from the US, one from Japan, for the development of something that we all use, lithium-ion batteries. All three of them spend their lifetime working to discover and perfect the lithium-ion batteries. We know these batteries are lightweight, they're rechargeable, powerful. If you're wondering what are lithium-ion batteries, well, they're present in your mobile phones. Those are the batteries that we charge, recharge again and again, and have become such a familiar source of energy for us. They're used in everything from mobile phones, laptop, even electrical vehicles. Cars and buses also are working towards using lithium-ion batteries. Now, what is special about these batteries is that they can store energy from renewable and clean sources such as solar and wind power. That really makes this discovery quite exceptional, an invention or discovery of significant proportion. It is making a world where fossil fuel may not be needed. So fossil fuel free society has become possible thanks to the effort of these three scientists. Let's move on to the next winners. We're now talking about physiology, or often called as medicine. So William Kellin, Sir Peter Ratcliffe, and Greg Semanza have been given the Medicine Nobel Prize for the discovery about how cells in our body can sense and adapt to the oxygen availability in the region and in our body. So that image on the side also sort of represents the kind of discovery that they've made. They reveal the mechanism for life's most essential adaptation process, the manner in which cells consume oxygen. If it's not there, how do the cells accommodate that absence? How oxygen levels aspect cellular metabolism, production of energy, digestion of food, and other physiological function. These three scientists and doctors look deeper into this aspect. They've paved the way, in fact, in this process in treatments of anemia, cancer, and many other diseases where cells, oxygen, blood are important aspects of curing the disease. The 40 years long wait for Iranian female soccer fans to enter Iranian stadiums came to an end this week. All thanks to FIFA, which stepped up pressure on Iran to meet the commitments, allowing women to attend World Cup qualifiers. Iranian women soccer fans cheered their side to a resounding defeat of Cambodia on Thursday after being able to purchase tickets for a national team home game for the first time in 4 decades. Under pressure from governing body FIFA, Iranian authorities allocated seats to women in 4 sectors of the Tehran's 78,000 capacity Azadi Stadium for the game against Cambodia. Glowing hot air balloons illuminated the skies over Albuquerque, New Mexico, as dawn broke on Tuesday. A dozen of balloons participated in the annual event known as the Dawn Petrol Show, which is part of the annual Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta. The balloons drifted until sunrise when the light grew strong enough for pilots to identify the landing sites. The Balloon Fiesta is a 9-day festival that began in 1972 with 13 hot air balloons. This year, more than 500 are participating, representing 17 countries. We're now leaving you with this vivid display of air balloons against the dark skies. Namaskar.
Lying in the eastern bank of the Hooghly River, this is the city of Kolkata, the capital of the eastern state of West Bengal. Known as the Jewel of the East during the British era, Kolkata is one of the most fascinating cities of India. When the British first came into this bustling city, it was nothing more than a village known then as Calicut. But the small village soon became the capital of the British Empire, and today it is the nerve center for trade and industry and is also known as the cultural cradle of India. Kolkata retains the aura of the yesteryears through its many impressive relics from the past. The most famous one is the white marbled Victoria Memorial. It is, as the name goes, the memorial of Queen Victoria. Built in 1921, it is now one of the most fabulous art museums in Kolkata and a popular tourist attraction.
Victoria Memorial is the place I really liked in Calcutta because it's really beautiful architectures and the paintings are really beautiful inside, the garden is really beautiful, so Victoria Memorial will be definitely the place I prefer in Calcutta.
Just beside the Victorian Memorial stands the St. Paul's Cathedral that offers another glimpse of British-era architecture. Go back in time by taking a trip around the city in the oldest running tram system in Asia. Trams have been running here since 1902 and are an essential part of the Kolkata experience.
Calcutta trams are essentially a part of Calcutta's heritage. Calcuttans are a very strong breed as far as art and culture and heritage goes. And it is a part of the glory which this city has, which probably other cities don't have.
Relax at the Kolkata Maidan, known as the Lungs of Kolkata. It is the largest urban park in Kolkata. It is dotted with several statues and pieces of architecture, and you can even see Fort William. There is more to sample in the city than the past. If you are looking gastronomical adventure, try out the street food.
The food's good from the street, and the people, interacting with the local people, it's been very rewarding. Yeah, I've enjoyed it a lot.
The City of Joy would delight anyone with its never say die spirit.
Hello and welcome to Social Connection. I am Nancy Kohli Mahajan and we are back again with the latest from the virtual world, where we tell you all about the important updates on your favorite social media platform and some interesting reports as well. All this along with the top trends and the virals of the week. But before that, let's take a look at our top stories. Facebook removes accounts from UAE, Nigeria, Egypt and Indonesia. Google celebrates its 21st birthday with a special doodle. Google brings incognito mode for Maps, auto-delete on YouTube and the password checkup on Chrome. Instagram launches a new messaging app for close friends called Threads. Facebook has removed several pages, groups and accounts on its platform from the Middle East, Africa and Southeast Asia, citing coordinated inauthentic behavior aimed at misleading the social media users. A total of 443 Facebook accounts, 200 pages and 76 groups, as well as 125 Instagram accounts were removed last week. Here's a report.
Facebook has removed several pages, groups and accounts on its platform from the Middle East, Africa and Southeast Asia, citing coordinated inauthentic behavior aimed at misleading social media users. A total of 443 Facebook accounts, 200 pages and 76 groups, as well as 125 Instagram accounts were removed, the social media platform said last week. They were traced to 3 separate and unconnected operations, one of which was operating in 3 countries, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt and Nigeria, and 2 others in Indonesia and Egypt to spread misleading posts and news articles. Facebook, which owns one-time rivals Instagram and WhatsApp, said the accounts were engaged in spreading content on topics like UAE's activity in Yemen, the Iran nuclear deal and criticism of Qatar, Turkey and Iran. Those operations created a network of accounts to mislead others about who they were and what they were doing. Facebook defines coordinated inauthentic behavior as when groups of pages or people who work together to mislead others about who they are or what they are doing. One account called USA Thoughts posted false information about Qatar developing a hate app. In Indonesia, accounts involved in domestic-focused issues were accused of spreading news about the deadly protest in the West Papua region. As many as $3 lakh were reportedly spent on Facebook ads paid in the Indonesian currency rupiah. During the April 2019 national elections, President Joko Widodo, who was seeking re-election, was also targeted with disinformation on social media, with some accusing him of being a communist and an underground Christian. The social media giant had recently cracked down on such accounts after its founder Mark Zuckerberg came under fire in the last few years for sluggishness in developing tools to combat extremist content and propaganda operations. Facebook is also making attempts to prevent online abuses and spread of misinformation, including in political election campaigns. In March, it removed 200 pages, groups and accounts linked to the former social media manager of Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte for misleading people. The accounts and posts in question posted about local news elections and alleged misconduct by political candidates opposed to the Duterte administration. Facebook said the account's administrators tried to hide their identity but were linked to a network organized by Duterte's 2016 campaign operative. The spread of fake news and propaganda, however, is not limited to individuals and private companies. According to a study conducted by the University of Oxford and published in late September, a handful of sophisticated state actors are using social media platforms such as Facebook and Twitter to influence a global audience. It listed China, India, Iran, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia and Venezuela for using Facebook and Twitter for foreign influence operations.
This year, Google celebrated its 21st birth anniversary with a special doodle of a throwback picture of a bulky computer that shows a Google search screen. Here's a special report by our correspondent, Ayushi.
Google celebrated its 21st birthday this year with a special doodle showcasing a bulky old computer with a timestamp 27 September 1998. It's hard to imagine our lives without Google, that all-knowing, all-powerful search engine that runs our lives smoothly and easily on and off internet. While Google knows pretty much everything about us, do we really know a lot about Google? So to give a chow to your mind, here are 5 interesting facts about your favorite minimalistic homepage. Google had a third co-founder. While Lawrence Page and Sergey Brin are popularly credited with founding Google, there was a third person who had his hands in developing the search engine. He was Scott Husson, who was originally the lead programmer of the popular search engine Google. Google was originally called Backrub. Google was originally named Backrub because of how it works. But eventually it was called Google because it resembled the word Google, a mathematical term which means 10 raised to the power 100. The 2 co-founders of the search engine clearly mentioned in the project, saying, "We chose our system's name Google because it is a common spelling of Google or 10100 and fits well with our goal of building very large-scale search engines." Google's birthday wasn't always on September 27th. While it sounds quite weird, but interestingly, Until 2005, Google celebrated its birthday on September 7th, and at some point it even celebrated its birthday on September 8th and September 26th. Clearing out the confusion via blog post, the company said that they themselves are confused about the birth date of the company. And from quite a long time now, they are celebrating September 27th as the official birthday of the company. Google's data was once stored in large Lego cabinets. Before Google became a huge and the most popular search engine, all the data of the search engine was stored in 10 4GB hard drives, the largest hard drives available back in 1990s. The patent of the Google's most popular search algorithm was never owned by Google. Although Google owned the trademark of PageRank and had the exclusive rights over patent, it was originally assigned to Stanford University. Here were some interesting facts about Google by me, Ayushi Bhatnagar. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
And at this point, we're taking a short break here, but we'll be back in a short while. Stay tuned and keep watching Social Connection.